Hey friends, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. Today I am doing a book review, and the book I'm going to review is, drumroll please, this book right here, Growing Up in the Jackson Family by LaToya Jackson. This is the first book I read this year. I thought it was going to be scandalous, a bombshell tell-all, but it was not that. She made a lot of allegations in the early 90s about her family, and surprisingly, the most scandalous things she said were not in this book. Instead, it was more of so growing up in the Jackson family. I thought this was really going to be about what she talks about in those talk shows in the early 90s. Instead, what it was just pretty much how LaToya viewed herself in the world during that time. And it also tried to paint Jack Gordon as her savior, which looking back is really sad because we know that he was on demon time. So LaToya did do a follow-up book. I have it, of course. Where is it? Right behind Janet's book here. Starting Over, which I think she wrote this after Michael died. As you can see, you know, maybe it was an apology. Look, there's her brother. The kitty is here about to knock the camera down. I'm gonna read it because LaToya was always closer to Michael than anyone knew. Actually, I just want to know when this book was published. Oh, how wonderful. We're going to have mow the lawn right now in 2012. So it's after Michael died. And as you can see here, this is my whole Jackson shelf. Of course, these are not all the books that I have by the Jacksons, but I have Janet's book, Kitty. You know what? Go away. Janet's book, True You. This is an old book that I had from like middle school from the library. Don't report me. My Friend Michael, I haven't read that one yet. Moonwalk, of course, I've read this one. Okay. Michael, what is this one? Oh, Jermaine Jackson's book. I don't know if I did a review on this one, but I should. This was a good book. Look at that. Look at that cutie pie. Look at this face. Okay. Okay, let me stop. Okay. I'm tearing up my shelf. But this book I read before. I remember getting this book. It was a small like mass paperback that I got from like this used bookstore. And I don't know what happened. I know what happened to that book. You see, Kitty, move. It got shredded. Like the book, the pages were falling. I probably still have the book if I haven't thrown it out. And then I have this book, which is probably like the first edition or something because it looks old. But this book is by Nelson George. I haven't read that one yet though. And then I have like a Michael Jackson picture book here, some magazines, and then I have more Michael Jackson books, but those are just the ones that I have up over there. Okay, so with that being said, before I move on, I wanted to start reading a lot of these books with the biopic coming up, and I have just so I can kind of see like what they kept close to reality and what was embellished for TV. And I want to make a video about the biopic because of course I follow a lot of this this is about LaToya Jackson, so we can delve into this little tangent. Thank you for moving with the lawn service. What was I talking about? Okay, the biopic. I listen to, of course, a lot of Michael Jackson creators, a lot of podcasts, and I've been hearing a lot of stuff about the biopic. I, of course, am very excited. I tried not to follow every single thing. I tried to stop after all the castings came out so that, you know, we could have something to be excited about when the show actually comes up, instead of trying to find out everything that's in the show. And I heard a lot of the creators like saying, oh, this wasn't in it, and I hope they do this, and this isn't for the real fans, it's just for the general public. And I have a different take on it. Maybe I'm not mega fan enough to just expect something to cater specifically to me. But I'm going to get into a video about that another time, and about the teaser and the trailer and all of that stuff. Okay, back to LaToya. I don't know if you guys remember, she had like a reality TV show that came out after Michael passed away too. So let's just get into some things that I noticed about LaToya in this book. The first thing is Jack Gordon. She painted Jack Gordon to just be this guy that was trying to save her, that was trying to put her career further, that was trying to make her into a bigger star, because she already felt she was a star, and that was trying to protect her from the abuse of her father and the control of her mother. But in this book, she does paint Jack Gordon as her savior, when in reality, he was the one she needed saving from. One thing she said about her mom in this book, while she's painting her mom out to be controlling, is that she felt that Katherine was trying to live her life through her. One part of the book she put, let's see if I can find it. I have some tabs here, I'm quite sure it's here someplace. If I don't find it, I'm quite sure I remember what she said. Oh, there's a part. Okay, I'll get to that later. Listen, I'm jumping all over the place. What is... I love looking at my notes because they're funny. That's why. Okay, she goes. This is page 179 if you want to follow along. Perhaps in her eyes, I was the Katherine she might have been were it not for Joseph. And I said to myself, my note here, okay, LaToya, what have you accomplished so far to make you think that? And, you know, she's like talking about her mom in this very negative light, but she's not understanding that her mom raised 9 kids in Gary, Indiana, that she raised all of them to be very successful in the entertainment industry. And she's like saying, oh, I'm what you would have been. And it's like, what is that, LaToya? Okay. So she paints Katherine to be like conniving, secretive, and like really in it with Joe, plotting against her to control her. Like she says one time she escaped. I wish I would have tabbed. I don't think I tabbed this because it was just so crazy. She escaped from Havenhurst, and with Jack to, I think it was, don't make me lie, I think it was New York. And she said that that Katherine and Joe came to try to kidnap her, and she had like security ushering her in cars and all this kind of stuff. It was very bizarre. You would think she was like in a James Bond movie. Maybe I tabbed it someplace. Okay, I found another thing just looking for that. Okay, anyways, let me tell you what I remember. So she was staying at this hotel, and then she found out that her parents were at a restaurant next door to it, and then there was this whole ploy of another bodyguard who worked for her parents trying to kidnap her, and then she had to run out with another bodyguard, and she got in the car in the limo. I was like, I don't trust anyone. I'm like, okay, why would they go through all of this just to have you live back at the house? It was very crazy. And here's another part where she says that her father attacked her and Jack Gordon in their house. And when she says Jermaine came and saw the whole thing. When Jermaine got home late that evening, his girlfriend told him everything. I'm gonna go in there and talk to Mother and Joseph, he said angrily. I'm getting so tired of this. They treat everyone like children. It's gotta stop. What's wrong with them? Jermaine, just forget it. It's over now, Jack said, trying to calm my older brother. Didn't you hit him back? Jermaine asked, still agitated. You should have hit him back. He's your father and it's his house. Let's just forget about it. And then she goes, today Jermaine will deny this, and he and the other guys will claim to have hated Jack from the start. But in fact, at one time or another, each remarked to me on what a great job my manager was doing and how they respected his commitment to me. I highly doubt that. I don't believe that. So that just goes to her painting Jack as this savior, this mild-mannered person. She even talks about how Jack was, he went to jail for some type of blackmail, bribery, some type of crime like that. And she painted it like it was some misunderstanding. Like, seriously, LaToya, no. I'm not even going to get into that because, I mean, for all the other bad stuff he did, that's just like a drop in the bucket. Another thing I noticed that was not in the book that I thought would 100% be in the book were the Michael allegations. So, as you know, LaToya came out on all those talk shows she was on in the 90s and said that the allegations against Michael were true. And this whole time, because I was a little kid back then when all this stuff came out, I thought, because I always knew she had to, that is not in the book. So that came after she wrote the book. We know it was coercion from Jack Gordon now, but that led me to believe that some of the stuff that she came out with after the book was released probably was stuff that Jack made her say afterwards, because if you're going to do a tell-all, come on, you will put that stuff in the book so that people will buy it and have a documented account of it. But that was only said in interviews. One thing that she did talk about in the book was posing for Playboy, and the way she wrote it, she even has it's right here, chapter 10, Playboy. Even the way she writes it doesn't seem like that was her empowered choice, like, you know, that was something she really wanted to do. I think that that was something that Jack pushed her to through. And even though she doesn't explicitly say that in the book, that's the feeling that I got from it. And then another thing that was not in the book was the same time she was doing her talk show thing, she came out and said that Joseph was inappropriate with her and Reby. And that, you know, he not only physically abused them, but inappropriately abused them, if you catch my drift. And with Michael, later she came out and said that the things she said about him were not true, that Jack made her say that. But when I saw an interview, and if I can find it, I'll link it, there was another interview that she had, and they asked her, well, were the things you said about your father true? And the only thing she would say was, I love my father. I love my father very much. She wouldn't say if it was not true or if it was true. But on her LaToya show, she did, I feel like, make amends with her father, and she asked him if she could call him dad. And I think at this time she was like in her 60s, and she was, if she was that old. She asked him if she could call him dad, and he said yes. And so it leaves you to wonder, were those accusations strategic? Were they coercive, or were they reactive? Like, why did she say those things, and were they true? And Reby never corroborated that. So, you know, it makes you wonder. That's one thing she didn't recant, but she did, I feel like, make amends with her father on TV, is in a show. Now, all of the Jackson children speak of Katherine very highly. Like, they don't really say anything bad about their mother, okay? She is golden, and I know what that's like, to have that golden person in your life and in your family. And for the Jacksons, it was their mother. But the way LaToya painted her was that, you know, her mom was trying to control her, trying to live her life through her. She speaks about Katherine fighting Joseph's mistresses, which I think there's been other accounts of that. So that might be true, but she painted it as like her mom was bizarre for doing these things. And, you know, I don't think she gave her mom much grace in this book, even though she did mention that they were close, but she took that closeness as a sort of control instead of just like a mother-daughter close. And throughout the book, I also noticed that LaToya felt that people were jealous of her. she mentioned that Janet was jealous, and that okay, let's talk about the Janet jealousy for a second. She painted Janet as, now mind you, Janet was maybe in her early 20s when this book came out. So the most of the time up until this time that LaToya interacted with Janet was as a child, a teenager, and a young adult. Okay. And by this point, LaToya is, I don't know how old she is. LaToya is born what? I think you're, so for her to say that her little sister, who she's 10 years older than, is jealous of her and she's petty and she's holding grudges, I thought was petty of her. Like, why would you talk about your younger sibling that way, especially when you are a whole 10 years older than she is? She mentions one time that that Jermaine asked Janet to open for him on his tour, and Janet refused because she had already had a hit. And it's like, if you are in the business, you can see why Janet would do that. And you could see that Janet was trying to distance herself from just being the Jackson's little sister. And she said that Janet said no because when they were doing the victory tour, Joe wanted Reby, Janet, and LaToya to open for the victory tour, and the brothers said no, they didn't want that. And she felt that Janet was holding a grudge. But no, it's been well documented that once Janet left Joseph, she really wanted to make a name for herself. So there was no way she was going to open up for Jermaine. And she also paints Jermaine as controlling and to some extent petty, which, you know, I'm not going to say that's all false. We've seen Jermaine in action, and there's this one part, I'm sure I tabbed it. Except for Jermaine, all the Jacksons were overjoyed for Michael when Thriller rocketed to astronomical success. And I wrote, even Jermaine. And that's from there when Michael was accepting some awards, and he goes, "Thank you to all my brothers, including Jermaine, or even you, Jermaine," or something like that. And I thought that was funny. And then this is when I really started to try to figure out what she's saying. Is it true or is it not? She mentions, I'm quite sure I'll plan to talk about this in the video, but since it's right here, she mentioned that, and it's about her mother. We all know that that black sequin jacket that Michael first did the moonwalk in belonged to his mother, Katherine. I was about to call this woman Rebecca. LaToya writes here that she bought that jacket. I'm like, is this really true? Because, you know, the famous jacket, now you bought it. Okay, who knows? Maybe she did. And then she goes, especially, this is something that was not about the jacket, but it's about Motown 25. Especially Diana Ross's and Mary Wilson's onstage spat during the Supremes reunion. And I know that that's true because Mary Wilson mentioned that in, is it over here? Dreamgirls. That she got in a fight with Diana Ross at that show. But I've never been able to find any clips of it for them. They probably edited it out, so we never got to see it. Okay, let's get back to LaToya. So we're talking about her being, everybody being jealous of her. So Janet is jealous. Then one thing that I found very bizarre, she said that her brother's wives were jealous of her and how close she was with her brothers, and saying, "Oh, they don't talk to me like that, LaToya." They're not. She's like, "Well, I'm just doing this with my brother." She acted very oblivious to everything, you know, like who even knew like the dynamics? Maybe who knew the dynamics? It's just that the fact that she felt that her brother's wives were jealous of her, you know, it just starts to become a pattern. Everybody's threatened, everybody's jealous, you know, and it's just like, okay, LaToya, she had inflated stardom. Like, she thought she was a bigger star than she actually was. I mean, hindsight, maybe somebody was, you know, older in 1990 and they can tell me more, but from what I can remember, and I knew LaToya posed in Playboy, and I knew she had a psychic network. I never even knew she had songs until the early 2000s when VH1 used to play those playbacks, and they do the whole Jackson one, and they had to put her song in there. And it was just, I mean, I didn't even know more Reby songs, you know, because that Centipede, you know, that's a bop. But I can't call one LaToya song off the top of my head right now. All right, so I don't know where all this star power she's talking about came from, because she painted herself as somebody very valuable that her family wanted to control. But by this time, Michael's a global superstar. By 89, I think that Janet had already released Control and Rhythm Nation. I could be wrong, but I know that by 90, Janet started to come out with hits. So why wouldn't they try to control the children who actually were getting good results in the business? Why would they just not try to control Marlon, who already had success with the Jackson 5, Jackie, Tito? Why you, LaToya? Why not Rebe? Why weren't they trying to control Rebe? Just LaToya. All of them, all the siblings and the parents, trying to just tackle her and keep her in Havenhurst. I think that her family kind of saw that she was naive and easy to be taken advantage of, and so they wanted to protect her, and she took it as control, because when she finally did wake up, she had to call Randy to come, of course, get her from Jack Gordon. And she does have some strange stories in this book. She has one story where her mother took her to meet some guy. I can't even remember his name, and when I look back, I couldn't find it. She went to meet some movie producer or something who wanted to put her in a movie, and her mom waited in the car, and she went up and she said, like, the guy would only say that he would put her in the movie if she went to dinner with him or something like that. And she kind of maneuvered her way out of that situation and told her mom, and she's like, oh, we're never going back to that guy again. But one name I did remember, because this story was very bizarre, was she told this story about Phil Spector. She claims that she went to his house and he made her feel very uncomfortable, but they scheduled a meeting for the next day and she went back. She even says that when she got there, she saw several signs warning that the fence was electrified and the premises patrolled by attack dogs and armed guards. One sign that caught my eye read, "You are here at your own risk." She talks about his mansion. She went with some guy named Danny. So she goes there with someone, and she goes, somebody asked her would she like to use the restroom, and she thought that was an odd question. And then right then she goes, later I learned that Phil's bathroom had peepholes through which he spied on guests. They asked her if she wanted something to drink. She said no. The next day, Phil called me at home. Listen, LaToya, he said intensely, I want to work with you alone. I don't want anybody from the record company to come. Just you and me, the two of us. We'll get a lot accomplished. That evening, she drove back. Now, if you saw this weird stuff the first time you went with somebody, why in the hell would you go back by yourself? And she was wondering why her family wants to protect her. This time she goes, he's talking to her about the movie Psycho. I'm sick of you. He pulled me down beside him on the piano bench. Phil would start to play an indecipherable tune, plunk, 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 then jump up and scream. I'm sick of you. I'm sick of you. I'm sick of Michael, before running out the door and locking it behind him. So he doing all this weird stuff, right? At the end, now he went from tyrannical to imploring, crying, you can't leave me. You can't leave me, LaToya. And I wrote, oh my God, not this again, because it's the same. Her mother's saying that, her father's saying that, everybody wants her. You can't leave me. So, but Phil, I'm coming back, I said as sweetly as I could. So she says that she just played, oh, of course I'll be back. And she goes, by the time she left, he had called her parents. He called her parents and said, I think she put it at home. He called her parents and said, oh, I know you're trying to keep her from me. Make sure you send her back. And then, of course, towards the end, she talks about posing for Playboy and how uncomfortable she was. And, but she does think that the shots were beautiful. She talks about how some of her family supported her. She said Michael supported her, how some of her family didn't. We know Jermaine didn't support her. The brothers have spoke out about it and how uncomfortable it made them. And, she came from a Jehovah's Witness background. I think she left the faith. And she talks about leaving the faith because one of her friends left the faith, and then she was told that she could never speak to them again. And she was like, I don't think that I want to be a part of something that would make me cut people who I love off. And what's sad is that I've heard LaToya come out and say that, that she's never been in love, that she, is a virgin, in the sense, I don't know, in the literal sense or in the sense that she's never been in love and had anybody to love her. And I know that Jack was pressuring her to do more risque things. You know, I think she posed for Playboy again. I think he tried to put her in some type of movies and things like that. And it's just sad that, you know, she came from such that sheltered life, and she was such a devout Jehovah's Witness. And even sometimes when you leave a faith, some of the values and the principles still stay with you. And I believe that they still stay with LaToya, even based on the way that she lives her life now. So for her to go through that, you can see that in one way she was trying to break free from one jail just to end up in like maximum security with Jack. So all in all, I did enjoy this book because of course I'm a big Jackson fan, so why wouldn't I? And I do look forward to reading her next book, Starting Over, and just see how the two relate to each other. So if you are a Jackson fan or you want to for some reason know more about LaToya Jackson, I would highly recommend this book. I was always fascinated with LaToya because she was the black sheep of the family. Really, Kitty? And I wanted to know what she had to say, and I'm glad that I got to read this. I don't think it's a true portrayal of her life and the life that she lived with her siblings. I think it was more of an agenda to paint Jack Gordon as her savior and to paint her family in a negative light to sell this book. So I'm looking forward to reading Starting Over before the year is out, and then I can compare the two. Yeah, so I get to check off G for my reading challenge. And thank you for getting this far in the video if you have. And until next time, happy reading.